All right, podcast alert. Just so you know, today's day 419. We're going to be analyzing deals today. But if you have not seen the latest podcast, please make sure you check out youtube.com/@underscore HE. You're going to see the latest podcast I have up with Michael Ian, one of like the 25 attorneys in the U.S. with tax exempt experience. So make sure you watch this because HUD loans they're lengthy, but they are a remarkable loan product, especially if you're trying to build affordable housing because of the favorable terms, the below market interest rates. That's something you really got to learn and know more about. So I got a whole podcast that talks about all the 221 and 223 loans. Go check that out. All right. So today we have a property that just came onto the market. And just so you guys know what I'm looking at, right? I've been filtering on properties that have essentially come on the market and they are essentially properties that are 4-bedroom plus, less than 250 grand, and they are on the market for less than 3 days because I want to stay on top of what is going on in the market. By that, I mean, what are properties coming onto the market for on the dollar per square foot perspective, right? And if you remember, we've been tracking properties that are coming onto the market almost every single week for a while now as we kind of closed up on all the comparable sales lists for properties that sold in the last couple of months. And the reason behind this is because we're pursuing the BRRRR strategy, right? Buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. Okay. When you get that strategy in place, it's really scalable because let's use an example, right? If you're able to buy a property for 40 grand and you renovate it for $30,000, but now all of a sudden it's worth 100 grand based on the finishes, the location, etc., you can go get a loan for 70% of the property's value, take back out 70% of that. In this case, would be the same $70,000 that you spent, and now all of a sudden you essentially have a property that you didn't put any money in with $30,000 equity, and you can use the same $70,000 and put it towards the next property. Someone was like, you're rinsing and repeating the buying process with the same $70,000 you originally saved. Now that's in comparison to what? Well, essentially, typically people had to save up 20-25% of the value of a home, put that as a down payment, buy the property, rent it out, hope it cash flows, and then you do it all over again, right? You work a full-time job and you save up enough money to buy the next property. Really long-tailed process, but it works for some people. But if you want to go faster, the BRRRR strategy might be the way to go. However, what's that strategy really contingent upon? It's really contingent upon the ARV, right? Getting your after repair value correctly estimated. Now, of course, comping is not, it's more of an art, not a science, right? Obviously, you want to look at bed bath counts, square footage, neighborhoods, etc. But you're going to have to make a judgment call sometimes. So for us, on 5720 33rd Street, let me go ahead and plug this number in. Let me plug in this address. This is a 4-bed, 2-bath, 1273 square foot. This was built in years 1960. And the listed price is $185,000. So your dollar per square foot is going to be equal to $145. Okay. And this was listed 18 hours ago, listed November 21, 24. Let's get the lot size. So you know how big the lot is, 0.76 acres. That's a pretty big lot. 0.76 acres, much bigger lot than the other ones. No garage, no basement, no HOA. What subdivision is it or neighborhood is it in? If I just go click on a map and I zoom out, I just try to get the neighborhood that's closest to, and this is in Fairmont, FARMONT, which is the same thing to what this property is. So you can kind of see there's a 5-bed, 3-bath that sold for $102 a square foot, but you see there's a big difference in price per square foot, right? So now you have to make a judgment, like, do I take the middle of it? Do I want to be conservative, right? You got to understand, like, okay, why was this property sold for $102 a square foot when this property is being listed for $145? Is there not a premium awarded in this market for homes that are above 2,000 square feet? I don't know, right? I don't know. But that's why you have to do this practice over and over and over. And you can see that this home that was sold on July 19th, beautifully done. Let's look at the condition of this home. Floor painting. Looks like they got the floor paint. There's still carpeting in some rooms. Carpeting in living room. That's a pretty modern kitchen, I guess. I would argue. Modern kitchen. Do I see any bathrooms in here? Or oh, the bathroom's modern. Okay. Nice modern kitchen and bathroom. No LVP except for living room carpet. Looks like new carpet and no paint job needed. So that gives me a general condition of the home. So now if I ever get a property in Fairmont that I want to turn into a 3-bedroom, I might look at this property, I might look at this property, look at this property, determine what the average per dollar square foot price might be. Now, again, right, your perfect comp is going to be, well, if I was buying this property, which is right next to this property, I mean, that would be the perfect comp, right? But that's usually not the case. And as you go across man-made borders such as highways, natural borders such as these creeks and rivers, you're in totally completely different neighborhoods. So just be very mindful of that, right? The further and further you get away in terms of location, natural borders, bed bath counts, square footage, lot sizes, the greater the risk is towards your comp being less accurate to whatever comp that you're using to justify your ARV. That's a judgment call. And this is why this is not investment advice. I'm not soliciting any investments on this call, just showing you all the work and the thought process for how do you make such a subjective decision. Now, are there appraisals you can consult with? Certainly. But if you ever had to challenge an appraisal, which some of my guests on my podcast have done, what comps are you going to use to support your challenge, right? That's what's going to impact your ARV calculation, because the lender is going to do the same thing when they try to give you a loan for the BRRRR, for the refinance takeout. They're going to ask the same question. So be very mindful. Okay, so now the next step is I'm going to look at this property, assuming it's a on the market property, and just analyze it really quick. Show you guys how quickly I can tell that this is not a deal at the current price of $185,000. Now for the rehab, this property doesn't really have much. So it's $1,500 for the roof, $500 for the landscaping. There's no painting needed. There's like one room with carpet that I would just replace, and I'm assuming $300 a square foot to replace with LVP, just to get that done and over with. No complete bathroom renovations. I'm gonna put 2 toilet renovations right here in row 132. Oops, I always forget to turn on my chat. I apologize for that. And then next up we have, I assume there's a water heater, so I don't need to do anything there. Great, so I got $6,300 of rehab on this property. Now, for my rents, if I go to affordablehousing.com, I go to the owner section, I go to the market rent estimator, plug in the address, plug in the bedroom count. It says that my average rent for 4 bedrooms in this area for 25 units is $1,709. That seems a little high. I'm going to underwrite this property using $1,450 first, because that's what I've seen for Section 8 vouchers. And then I'll do another one with $1,700 so you guys can see the difference, right? But I don't believe that you're going to get $1,700. And a 3-mile radius is a pretty big difference, especially in Birmingham, where it's a street-by-street type of market. Right, so let's get our property taxes right here. Property taxes right from the Refin calculator is 49. Obviously, you should always double check with the county assessor records before you do anything. And my insurance is going to equal to 143 times 1.2. So I'm adding a 20% premium right here to an insurance premium. That brings me to 171. And I'm adding a 20% premium specifically because insurance companies will view your asset, if it's used for an investment property, as a riskier asset. So that's why you need to add a 20% premium compared to an insurance policy for a primary residence. All right, then I got 10% set aside for maintenance. This is for properties that, I mean, any property. I mean, you know the roof's going to get replaced at some point. You know the water heater is going to get replaced at some point. So if you don't set aside $145 every single month, and in 100 months from now, you get a roof replacement bill for $14.5K, you would have realized that, hey, I thought I was making all this extra $100, $145 a month, but that was not the case, because I underestimated my expenses, because I overestimated my profitability. So don't be that person. Always underwrite with maintenance. I got 10% set aside for property management, and then I got 5% for vacancy. So assuming I put 25% down here in F19, my down payment is going to equal to my asking price in B4 times my down payment percentage in F19. I want to be putting down 46.25K, 3% for closing costs, $6,300 for renovations. My financing amount in K6 is going to equal to my B4, my asking price, minus my down payment in E19. So I'll be financing $138,000 at 7.5% interest rate. That's going to yield me, if I rent this property out at $1,500, that's going to yield me a negative 2.1% cash return. It's a negative 103 cash flow a month, negative 2.1% return. I was assuming a purchase price of $185,000 with a rehab of $6,360. Okay. Now let's say you get the best case scenario and well, that was $1,450 rent. Okay. So you got the best case scenario, you got $1,700 rent. Okay. If you got $1,700 rent, it's still not a deal. All right. Assuming your target is 10% cash and cash return. 84.24 is your cash flow, and you're only making 1.7% return. So at least you're in a positive now, but at the same time, why would you buy a property that only yields you 1.7% return? You could buy a 10-year treasury bond yield or 30-year treasury bond yield for what essentially is risk-free, right? Because technically the federal government should never default. So think about that perspective. Why would you go through all of that execution risk to hire a contractor, hope and pray that they're going to do what they say they're going to do for 1.7% return on your money, right? Now, there's some people that would just say that's okay if they're in a very high appreciating market, but that's very speculative, right? That's why this is not an investment. That's why you got to talk to your own investment professionals about what your risk appetite is, what your goals are with your portfolio, because that's going to be really important. Now, using 1,700 as a rent, if I lower this asking price to 100 grand, boom, I'm trying to get it back to 10% cash and cash return. So if that is the case, I will be willing to pay, oops, one too many zeros. I'd be willing to pay $132 for this property if I can get $1,700 in rent. Now, what might be a good way for you to get those rents? I mean, you might go find a local property manager and see what they recommend as your rental rate assumptions, because they might understand that market much better than you do, especially if you're out of state, right? Now, if I were to say, hey, that's my ceiling for 1,700. If this goes down to 1,450, right? Now you're back to half of that. Now you might have to go back to 100 grand. 105. Yeah, 110. Boom. 108. Great. That's a little closer to 10. So if you're renting this property, assuming everything else stays constant, right? 1,450. You can cash flow $300 a month if you bought this property for 108. And those are the scenarios that you want to go through, right? You want to play around with different factors to figure out, hey, what would make this a deal in quotes, quote unquote, based on your criteria, right? And that's going to be very different for everybody else. But what I want you to do is just go through the exercise so you know how to adjust the levers to get the deal to come to a price or a set of terms that makes this deal a deal, right? You might lower or increase the interest rates to see what happens if interest rates go up, right? Because as interest rates go up, your willingness to pay goes down, and that's going to result in even a lower asking price. And that's how many people ended up in negative equity situations. Okay. All right. I hope this was fun. I hope this was helpful. I hope you all really check out the latest podcast on youtube.com/@Kent_HE. Learn from these very experienced developers. They have done hundreds, not thousands of units or been part of those. Those are the people you want to learn from. Please, please, please check them all out. I promise you it'll be worth your time. All right. So have a good day, everybody. And if you guys want to copy the spreadsheet, go to Kent. I have a deal. I'd like to work out the underwriting. Seller is interested in sub 2. Hey, Kiera, why don't you send me your deal and we can underwrite it tomorrow after you give me some details. I'm going to do it live, though. So full disclosure, I do everything live because I want to make sure I teach other people. But we can just underwrite the deal and see if it works for Section 8. And then you can obviously explore other strategies out there. Cool? DM me on Instagram or LinkedIn. Intro invest with Kent he or LinkedIn. All right. Perfect. Message me. I'm here to help. Thank you so much, everybody. I'll see you all tomorrow. But send me those details and let's see if I can help you. All right. Have a good day, everybody. Have a happy Friday. Spend some quality time with your family and friends today because that's what life is all about. Have a good one, everybody.